Hello, this is Joe, and welcome back to the channel. So, a couple months ago, it was in August, later August, like the 26th or 27th, Saturn was either in opposition or a day or two ahead or behind that mark. I can't remember the dates now, but I had went out and I tried to take Saturn. I really wanted to get an image of it at its opposition, and here's what happened. Tonight I'm actually going to be doing some planetary again, except that I got a new camera, an ASI 462 and a 2X Barlow from Celestron. So we're going to give that a shot. And I'm set up over here behind my house, right next to my deck. And that's because for the last week we've had a bear come by, and he likes to come around, or she, just after dark, and then in the morning when I let the dogs out, he's usually gone or running away as soon as I bring the dogs out. So I don't think he's going to bother us too much, but I normally would set up over by my observatory and I'd be able to polar align there. But unfortunately, that's a little too far for me to run, and I'm pretty sure that the bear will catch me before I get into the house if it decides to come after me. So I decided to set up right next to the stairs of my deck so that I can run into the house real quick if I need to. But because I am back here, I am unable to see Polaris because my house is going to block it. So I thought I'd try this app. It's called PolarLine Pro. I've seen a few other people use this to get their polar alignment on trackers and stuff like that, especially when they can't see. And it costs a couple bucks, but I think it's worth it. Basically, there's a day align, and I'm going to go into day align, and you can see that when you get the crosshairs in the middle of the bullseye here, it'll actually be a very close polar alignment. I'm going to say rough polar alignment, but because I'm doing the planets, I'm not too worried about my polar alignment as much as I would be if I was doing some deep space stuff. So I put my phone inside of the saddle. You're supposed to lay your phone down on the saddle, but I can actually fit mine in the saddle without moving, and I'm going to use that to polar align with, and I'll show you what I have to do to move it, but it was pretty close when I checked it. So I'm pretty sure you could see that there. We need to come in just a little bit. So here we are here. We just need to come in just a little bit. And so I am going to move the altitude knob just slightly and see what that gives us. Okay, so it looks like the altitude's correct. Sorry, I'm shaking it up. I'm trying to do this with one hand and then getting bit by mosquitoes at the same time, so I'm a little bit jerky. I did get a little bit closer. I'm gonna work on this just a little bit more and see if I can't get it a little bit more exact than that. So after moving this around a little bit, I finally got it dead center, and we'll see how that's gonna work. So I've got the adapter that goes onto the back that is for visual. I put that on there, and I went ahead and I put in the 2X or 2 times Barlow into it, and then I put the camera onto a nose piece and then put that in there. And inside of the nose piece of the camera, I did screw in an IR UV cut filter. I've got everything hooked up. I know you guys can't see me that well right now. It's just about dark, and I've actually got my telescope to where I think is pointing towards Saturn. I'm not getting an image right now. I ran out of time to focus it on an object far away, unfortunately, so I'm going to just have to kind of play around with the backspacing until I can find a focus and just go from there. That's about all I could do at the moment, and hopefully I'll grab an image of Saturn at least. If I do, then I'll probably also try and go for Jupiter as well later in the evening. So, but that's probably all I'm going to record tonight because it's really dark. You really can't see me except for my red light on my head and a little silhouette. So, yeah. I'll see if I can record some stuff on the computer as it's coming in, and then show you the images after. So I was going to put up a little sign that in my video that fades to black and some text that says, everything that went wrong. But I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to tell you. The the little app that I was trying to use did not work. I tried, you do this thing with your phone that goes like this to calibrate the GPS in it, and I tried several times. I closed everything. I restarted my phone even one time, and I just could not get a good polar alignment. And with the house blocking me, it was just a no-go. The whole night was just a bust. I did finally find Saturn. That was another thing, is I really was having a hard time finding Saturn in the Finder scope. And after hours, and Saturn was already over its peak and was coming back down over its meridian point. And I finally did manage to get it in the screen, and then I could not, no matter what I did, I could not keep the telescope on it. I was just that far out of polar alignment. And it's my understanding you don't even need to be really, exact in polar alignment like you do when you're doing deep sky objects. But yeah, I was that far out. So that little app was, yeah. Anyway, 4 weeks later, fast forward, because the weather had come in and it gotten really bad again, and I had some other things going on, and I wasn't really able to stay out late at night with the scope for a while. But 4 weeks later, Jupiter is now in opposition. Closest it's been, like, in 59 years to the Earth, and so I really wanted to get it. And here's what happened. I've moved my entire setup to the front yard. I'm in front of the house now, and I've got about 10, maybe 20 feet to go to the door in case the bear comes by again. And I'm hoping that up here I can get a polar alignment, and I should be able to get some time anyway on the planets before they go behind the house up here. What I'm going to try and do right now, or the way you see me set up, is I'm just trying to get some focus, because I've been having a hard time trying to figure out where my focus point is. I know a lot of people say don't worry about the back focus, but because the planet's really tiny, it's in the center of the field, so you really don't care about the sides. But I'm just having a hard time getting focus, and I think it'll actually be a lot easier just focusing manually anyway once I do. If you watch my last video, you'll know that my EAF was damaged, and I needed to send that back for repair. So I'll be manually focusing tonight. And I'm going to try first without the Barlow. I do have the Barlow with me, and if I can get this to focus correctly with some images, then I'll try the Barlow. I've got a ton of extenders on here right now, and I'm hoping that I could probably remove some of these, get this camera a little closer, and then once I get something good with just the camera, I will insert the Barlow and then have a lot of spacers left over to play with to see if I can get focus tonight. And hopefully the bear won't come around and I'll get some great images of Jupiter. So I started all this when Saturn had just passed opposition, and now Jupiter's already getting ready to be in prime position tonight. It's completely in opposition tonight. It's Monday the 26th, 2022, and I'm hoping that I can get at least some shots or something of Jupiter. It's the closest it's been to the Earth since, I think, 1963, so about 59 years. And I'm really hoping that I can try and get some images of Jupiter. This would be my first real image of Jupiter with this color camera. So wish me luck here. Okay, so I'm going to polar align real fast, and then once I get the polar alignment done, I'm going to go ahead and get started on Saturn. If I can get some Saturn, it's already up, and it's almost already behind the house. It's at about 34, 36 degrees here, and Jupiter's already out. It's just above the telescope as well. And I'm gonna, once I get some images of Saturn, or hopefully get images of Saturn, then I'm going to set this to Jupiter and see what I can get now. It's about it's only about 20 degrees or 25-ish degrees up. It should get up quite high in the sky tonight, but that's going to be around midnight, and I do have to work in the morning. So my plan is to get everything set up and tracking on Jupiter, and then hopefully get up about midnight and start imaging Jupiter then, or taking video of it. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and polar align. Okay, so I finally managed to capture some of Jupiter. So I do have Jupiter. I'm going to have to do a screen capture to show you, but I am using Fire Capture. I'm at a gain of 291, and I'm at 1.8 milliseconds, and I'm getting about 60 frames per second with this camera. Now that I'm focused in, I'm also going to try and get Saturn, but first I want to put the Barlow on and see what it looks like now that I've got Jupiter dialed in and focused without it. So I'm going to try it with it next. Okay, so I got the Barlow working, and I all I could think of is that my scene is not that good because the image just isn't all that fantastic in the video, and maybe that'll change after I stack it. I hope so. But at least I got the Barlow working, and I've got focus good enough to tell that it's Jupiter. So that makes me pretty happy. It's actually still recording now. It just finished, and I'll show you the screen here in a second. That's what I got at the moment. It's not bad. It's much more impressive than I thought, and I'm pretty happy so far. I'll just have to see. This is one of those things where I'm just getting started in this part of the hobby, and it's going to take me a little while, just like anything else. But the coolest part is that I'll get to see how I progress as time moves on. So the images from that night were really bad, and at that point I was starting to think there was something wrong with the camera, or there was something wrong with the Barlow, or I didn't know what to think, or I didn't have, I was too close or too far, and it just kept going and going. So a longtime subscriber of mine, Dalai Lama, his name is Brian, and he had messaged me and told me, don't worry about your back focus at all. It's just, put your Barlow, put your camera, go for it. If you need to, you can put some spacers in between, either on the other side of the Barlow or before the Barlow. And I thought, okay, cool, so that made me feel a little bit better because, I talked to somebody who had done it. And my friend Pat from Heavenly Backyard Astronomy, he just gets some amazing images. And I actually did use some of his techniques for processing them in AutoStacker and Registax. So thanks, Pat. Appreciate it. And thank you, Brian, for what you did tell me, because that kind of got me off to right thinking. So what I didn't show, because I didn't go out and record it because I didn't think that I was going to get anything again, is I went out the very next, or not the very next night, like 3 nights later, because the clouds had rolling in, but I was just bound and determined now that I was going to get something. And I realized something that night. At the beginning, it was the same old thing. No matter where I put the Barlow, no matter where I put the camera, I continued to get that terrible, it resembled Jupiter and it resembled Saturn, but I couldn't get any detail, no matter what kind of focus I did, or no matter how minute I adjusted anything. Just, it was always the same. And then, so I started doing more and more research during the night, right then and there. I started pulling up forums and everything else, other people's videos. And while I was reading through all this, a lot of people had said, well, go check out this website. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to put a link to that website below, because it kind of shows what was happening to me. It's just a website that has examples of what the planets look like in different seeing conditions. And even though I'd go into Telescopius and it would say, hey, you've got amazing scene and an excellent scene, I'm pretty sure it had to be the scene, because while I was doing all this research and looking all this stuff up, I still have it running, and I'm tracking Jupiter, and I'm looking on my screen, I'm like, it just cleared up. I mean, out of nowhere, it just got sharp and clear, or at least what I thought was sharp and clear compared to what I had been getting. So this image isn't too bad. Unfortunately, I didn't record it, but the wind had come up, started picking up, and I was out there with my EQ6R, and the Edge HD8 is just like a wind sail, and it wasn't a big breeze. It was maybe 8-10 miles per hour breeze, but it just couldn't handle it. So a few nights later, the moon was almost full. I wasn't going to do any imaging because I had been doing another project, and I had my Z81 on this mount. But what I did is I put everything on here, on the CEM120, and I decided to set everything up. And I took my guide scope off of my Z81 and I put it here in this little saddle. I got this saddle. It was kind of cheap on a Gina Astro. It was like $13, and it really doesn't fit the William Optics guide scope. Uniguide scope, it doesn't fit in here very well. I did manage to kind of squeeze it into this first area, and there's a little screw in here, a little set screw, and it worked, but I wouldn't recommend one of these if you've got the William Optics type guide scopes, because they really don't fit very well. Maybe it works with some other guide scopes, I'm sure. I mean, it's a nice piece of equipment. I don't want to say it's bad or anything. It just didn't fit for me. So anyway, I did get it to work, and I went into Nina, and I used Orbital's plugin, and I went ahead and used I told Nina that my main scope was actually the 120 Mini, and then I went to it. And then I found out another thing too, is that the CEM 120 is amazing for grabbing planets. I mean, I know that's not what you would buy the mount for, but it's just the side effect of it. It's really good. In the Ioptron Commander software, you could just tell it to go slew to anything in the solar system that it's got listed. I would take it straight to the moon first. I would tell it to sync up as soon as it hit the moon, which it did the first time. And then I could tell it to go to any planet, and I would get it. I would get it on the screen, at least of the guide scope. Once I got it in the guide scope, I was able to move the mount around, just a little bit, slightly here and there, and until I'd find it inside of Firecapture, which is what I was using. So I was using Firecapture the first few nights because everything that I read and other people had said how good it was. And it was okay. It wasn't too difficult to figure out. But when it's got an auto track feature, and when I tried to use the auto guide or auto track feature, I could never keep a planet in the middle, no matter what. And I also had some issues with it when I would try and tell it to do a ROI on a smaller resolution. Then it wouldn't. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I kept having some issues. It was probably me not knowing how to use it because so many people rave about it. I'm sure it's an amazing program. But I just went into SharpCap and I changed my ROI. It centered it. I never had to use on the auto guiding. The EQ6R and the CEM120, when they're polar aligned, just track the planets fine. I never really had any issues. Every once in a great while, I would try and reposition the planet in the center. And it was pretty rare, though. Then that's how I got these images that I'm going to leave you with. They're still not fantastic, but when I did bring it in here, the scene was so much better, and I think that it's huge. It's a night and day difference between what I was getting before, and long story short, it's too late, but you don't have to worry about where the camera is in relation to your back focus on the back of your edge. It just didn't matter to me. I was able to put the Barlow immediately after my T adapter, and then I put the camera immediately behind the Barlow. I got the same result as when I put spacers all over the place. So it really comes down to scene, and I just didn't realize that before, and I'm starting to find out that because of the Rocky Mountains, it kind of shreds the air, and the scene's bad. For me, doing my normal deep sky objects, I guess it just didn't ever mattered, really. I could always tell when the scene was better because I'll be tracking at like between 0.25 and 0.35. It's just get amazing guiding. And when it's not that good, I'm still between 0.35 and 0.5. And for my image scale, I never have a problem with it. But when looking at the planets, it's just this major deal. It's a huge problem that I'm finding out that I have. So anyway, I hope you learned something. I learned a ton. I hope it was helpful in some way, especially if you're just getting into planetary, or you just want to watch a normal DSO imager fuddle around with the planets and laugh. that's cool too. But if you did like the video and learned something, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next video.